I'm Clive Hamilton, Professor of Public Ethics at the Centre for Applied Philosophy and Public Ethics and the author of a new book called Requiem for a Species.
Do you think we're beyond the point of salvation, Clive, when it comes to reacting to climate change?
We've left it a very long time before we get serious about climate change, and sadly carbon dioxide emissions in the atmosphere are so high now and still increasing that we have perhaps 5 years in which to turn it around, and I don't think anyone believes that political processes in countries like Australia or international processes are going to get anywhere near turning it around in time. So we're looking at very severe climate change in the 21st century. The climate scientists, leading climate scientists, are now saying their numbers indicate that even under optimistic set of assumptions, we're very likely to reach 4 degrees of warming by the end of this century, or in fact by the 2070s, and that will be catastrophic.
Given what you're saying, is it disheartening that there has been so much attention in the public consciousness towards climate skeptics in recent times? And why do you think it is that people are able to sort of switch off or reject these scientific truths or these scientific presentations about what's going to happen?
Well, the situation we find ourselves in is, as much as anything else, a challenge to our belief that we are rational creatures. I mean, we use all sorts of mechanisms to avoid the truth, not just the hardline denialists who reject science as such, but also members of the general public who use a whole lot of psychological devices to avoid the truth or dilute it or to blame someone else. I mean, in a way you can understand. I mean, who wants to believe what the climate scientists are saying? I don't. I don't want to think that we're headed for a horrible future which we can no longer stop. But sooner or later we have to face up to it, because as long as we keep avoiding the real truth of what the climate scientists are saying, it's just going to get worse and we'll be less prepared for it.
How do you get people to face up to it? What measures should be taken?
Well, first of all, I think we have to recognise the sort of psychological barriers that we are all deploying to refuse to do it. Because there's a big difference between recognising intellectually that climate change is happening and that it's going to be bad, but actually really taking on the meaning of that in an emotional way and starting to say, well, this is my future, this is the future of my children and grandchildren, and it's extremely alarming. What can we do? Is a very different matter. So I think we really need to understand better the psychology of denial, not just hardline denial, but everyday casual denial, and start to craft messages to say to people, look, this isn't just something happening in the abstract. This is real, that's starting now, and it's going to get a lot worse. And it's only when we reach some critical threshold of people understanding that they will demand that their governments introduce big bang policies to introduce this radical shift to a low carbon future.
So even though the picture that you see coming out of the latest climate science is quite pessimistic, you are not necessarily pessimistic about human ability to adapt and mitigate.
Well, I think it's way too late for us to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions to the point where we avoid dangerous climate change. It's too late for that. We're going to have serious climate disruption this century. Anything we can do, though, to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions is worthwhile, because at a minimum it will delay some of the worst impacts. So we have to act, and we have to act as soon as we can. I mean, the fact that it's too late in a way only increases the urgency of acting, because it makes you face up to what we are really confronting. And so the answer is to get political, because this won't be solved by changing our light bulbs. I mean, this is going to require a wholesale transformation induced by government policies that make us all change quite radically the way we use energy. And so we must demand of our governments and our international institutions that we have policies and agreements that will bring about this change as rapidly as possible.